Welcome to the Conversations with Rainforest Engineers podcast, India's first podcast for and by civil engineers. Join us on our journey to simplify and bring you experiences straight from the industry. This is your host Padmadev Joshi along with the co-host Gokulji Kumar and E.S. Krishnaram. So let's jump right into it. We started this cycling series with an introductory episode with Mr. Rahul Dugli. Today we have our special guest, Rebecca Laurel, all the way from Leicester. She is a civil engineering student, cycling coach, loves to write blogs on cycling experience and creates cool video on YouTube. You should definitely check that out. Rebecca, welcome to Cycling Series by Conversation with Reinforced Engineering. To begin with, can you tell us about how you started cycling? What is the love for cycling all about?
Okay, so I started cycling after the London 2012 Olympics, where there was a big push into new sports and trying new things in England. And my brother wanted to try a road bike. So we did a taster session where we could try like the road bikes with the dropped handlebars that we'd seen on the Olympics. And then we joined the cycling club that linked to that. Since then, cycling has been a massive part of my life. So from riding and enjoying the countryside to racing and coaching, and now using my bike as a mode of transport. I mean, I love cycling so much that I have 9 different bikes.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
So you are talking about different types of bikes. Can you give little brief about it? Do you use the same bike for your off-road trips or do you use different bikes?
So I use different bikes depending on where I'm going. So off-road bikes have wider tyres with better grip and sometimes suspension for using on grass or gravel or like in the mud. Whereas like the road bikes have narrower tyres, which are smooth to make it easier to go faster and further. So some bike paths are advertised. I don't know what turf it is. So I'll use an off-road bike just in case to avoid getting a puncture. But most of the time I use my standard road bike, and this is the bike I use to commute with panniers on the back. I recently bought an elephant bike, which is a refurbished postman's bike. So it has panniers, but it has a big basket on the front as well. So I can use it for taking things to and from places for short journeys that I'd otherwise complete in the car.
That's interesting, Rebecca. Actually, I looked at video where you were explaining and you were really trying to explain what elephant bike looks like. Can you tell a little story about it? How they've given the name elephant bike? It's quite interesting.
Yes, so elephants' bikes were the old postman bikes, so they were red. And when they donated some to Africa, the red colour attracted the elephants and they'd chase the bikes. So that's how they were called elephant bikes.
That's great to hear. Coming to your cycling coach journey, I read your blogs. How did you come up with the idea coaching people to cycle around?
So I started coaching when I was 17 because I became too old for the children's sessions that I really loved and wanted to stay involved with. So someone recommended doing some coaching with them. So that first summer I coached, I did 72 hours of volunteering in 6 months to complete a British Cycling Volunteers scheme. And then I did coaching courses and started writing about my experiences in my blog to encourage others, particularly women. So this year I got selected by Cycling UK as one of their 100 women in cycling for all my work inspiring young children to cycle. So my main inspiration and motivation for coaching is to inspire young cyclists. And I'm so proud when young girls tell me that they want to be like me when they're older.
That's beautiful to hear it. When it comes to coaching and you see people are motivated to cycle around, why do you think still people need training camps to learn cycling, to learn it in a better way? Because there are different types of cycles. What exactly do you teach them during the coaching part?
So for some sessions, depending on the session, it could be like a learn to ride where you've got very young children who can't ride a bike yet. Or sometimes it's like racing cyclists working on skills to help them progress and get better at racing.
Okay. When I was referring to your YouTube channel and even the blogs, I came across this term. It's called cyclocross race. What this is all about?
So cyclocross is an off-road type of racing that takes place in winter, completing laps of a course of like a field or something with lots of corners and obstacles and mud. So it's really fun and it's really accessible because there's so many different categories to race in. And once you've completed one lap, no one can really tell if you're last or not. So yeah, I've been racing for the last 4 or 5 years in local leagues, and it's a really good way to meet new cyclists and make friends.
That's great to hear. I'll definitely try to visit sometimes Leicester and be part of the race. Is it possible, Rebecca?
Uh, yeah, well, obviously in the current climate, we don't know how well it's going to go ahead this winter, but definitely in the
True,
future.
true. So I'm looking forward to it. I would like to talk about your YouTube channel. I came to your YouTube channel after I saw your post on LinkedIn where we have to submit our assignment for the course. So, what you have to talk about your YouTube channel? How did you come up with the idea and flipping the bottle or doing a bike stand? That is very interesting.
Yeah, so I set up my YouTube channel earlier this year to share some videos of my cycling. I had thought about it before, but the big move was when I was inspired by a friend from university who had just set up her channel. And with lockdown, I had more time to give it a go and make more videos. So the things I started with were like fun cycling videos that I'd already made or I had already thought about, and some local bike rides. Then after my exams, once I'd started working on the different courses, I wanted to film some examples of cycling infrastructure near me to help me understand and learn where and how the content that I was learning could be applied.
Even I can see that you are very good with the editing part.
It was mainly with the YouTube channel and learning how to film and edit. I really enjoyed the creative process.
You are a civil engineer. So, was that anywhere related to this cycling journey? Were you inspired while you were traveling on the road, or it has nothing to do with the cycling?
Yeah, so when I started my degree in civil engineering, it wasn't really linked to the cycling. But now we've got further in, and I've studied modules on traffic engineering and now these online courses. The cycling and the engineering has really become like one topic.
Being a civil engineer, you have been riding along since long now. So, what are the main pain points you observed while you are riding around in terms of cycling infrastructure?
I think the main point is the connectivity of different pieces of cycling infrastructure, because if you can't link them up very well, they're practically useless. No one's going to go on a bike path for 100 metres to then join the road again. And it's not going to encourage people to cycle. And also in England, a lot of the bike lanes disappear near the junctions where you're most vulnerable and need the most protection.
True, Rebecca. Even for my city, we have nearly around 30 kilometers of cycling network. That is a huge because entire area is not more than 30 kilometers straight in one direction. But the problem is bike lane, or even if you talk about the sidewalk, so it ends after 150 to 200 meters. So it doesn't make any sense. And that discourage people, and the place is used for other purposes, like for parking the vehicles, or it is used by hawkers to sell vegetables. So it is very frustrating at some time. And I think you even did a very good job with your proposal while you were submitting your assignment. So can you give a little brief about that as well?
Yeah, so for my assignment, designing the cycling city, I chose somewhere near me that I thought was safe for like 5 or 6 years ago when I was like 10 or 11, even further back when I remember riding it like initially. But as like it's near the doctors and the dentist, and as that's expanded, as the local area's expanded, they've done nothing to the road or the parking for that place. So you get lots of cars parked on the road, but there's space to do other stuff. So I took away some of the grass verges to make a bike path and some off-road parking to enable the road to be clear of obstructions.
Great, great. I've seen the presentation. It was very nice. And coming to this video where you are talking about the temporary and permanent cycling paths, the issue with the temporary lanes is sometimes people will feel okay, I'm being stuck into this plastic cones, or I'm not very sure is that a cycle lane or not. What is your observation from your city? Is it the same? People love it or not?
I think there's been lots done in Leicester, and it is mainly separated with cones or plastic ones, but they've also added paint onto the road markings. So if you didn't have the cones or anything, you'd know that it was still a bike path.
Okay. And while I was going through your YouTube channel, I found this video very interesting where you traveled from letter A to letter Z, the entire journey. So, what was your observation as a civil engineer in terms of different terrains? You were passing by the road and there were no designated cycle paths. So, what is your take on that?
Yes, so a lot of the letters I chose were in the countryside, so little villages that didn't really have any cycling infrastructure. But the roads there are quite quiet, so I could travel quite comfortably along them. One thing I did encounter was a place that had a permanent 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, which is a lot lower than the 30 or 40 that it usually would be, which is something I'd never seen before. And the road surface was a lot grippier and like almost a different colour.
So, Rebecca, if you want to cycle for work only, the purpose related to going to a college or going to buy a grocery, what is the normal distance which you bike around? As a normal person, I'm asking. Usually, people don't go more than 4 to 5 miles. So, what is your take on that? Is it that difficult?
Yeah, so when I cycle to work into Leicester, I cycle 6 miles each way, which is about 50% on separate bike paths. It's not the most direct route, but it feels safe and it's nice. And I think most places are, or where you'd want to get to, accessible within 4 or 5 miles.
So you are also talking about the low traffic neighborhood. How do you propose that if you want to propose it to the policymakers or your city government? What is the better way to also integrate citizens to be part of this thing?
Yeah, so low traffic neighbourhoods are where the car isn't the only option or isn't the first choice for short journeys. And recently that's come up a lot on my social media, particularly in
Yes.
London. I've seen lots of different examples. So I went to have a look what I could find near me. And I think the main thing is having like one main road that you can get to everywhere. And then all the other roads link up for pedestrians or cyclists, but don't link up for cars, which is what I was looking at in the new development near me.
When it comes to reviewing the cycling paths, you are doing a great job. How would you like to give message to the young people out there across the world to contribute in a better cause, to make our cities friendly for cycling and for pedestrians?
Yeah, so a few weeks ago I read a quote that said, the best advocate of the bicycle is the bicycle itself. So I think it's really important that the more you see other people cycling, the more convincing it is that you could do it. And it will give people confidence if they see other people similar to them riding and enjoying it. So I think the main thing is to give it a go.
That is a very strong statement. Thank you, Rebecca. Now, few of the concluding statements from you. So, what empowers you to cycle around your city? What is the one motivation other than your love for cycling?
Yeah, that's hard because I really love cycling. So the reason I chose to cycle to work was because I liked cycling. But also, it's quick, it's easy, it's cheap, it's convenient. For me, from where I live into the city centre, it takes the same amount of time to cycle as it would to take the bus, and then I don't have to pay for the bus. And Leicester has some great bike parking near the town hall in the centre of Leicester, which means I can go there, park my bike, and not have to worry about it for the rest of the day.
True, Rebecca. So, you are talking about going to park, even cycling around the city. So, do you find issues getting the parking spots? In India, we find lot of issues to park our cycles. So, what is the scenario there, and how we can include that in our street design as well?
Yeah, so there are, in the centre of Leicester, there's lots of like places with benches that have bike parks next to it, which is ideal if you just want to sit down for a break or grab something quickly. But you might not feel secure if you were leaving it there for hours or like the whole day. And then you've got the bike park, which is where you hand your bike into a member of the council and they put it in a room with like a lock or a card so you know it's yours, and then that's secure for the whole day.
Okay, that is a good start. I think our cities need to work on that as well. So now coming to the experience, we took a course with Humankind, designing the cycling city. So what is your future perspective? Are you planning to go with the transportation engineering, or are you planning to continue with cycling coach for the next few years? What is your take?
Yeah, so I took the course for fun because once my exams had finished, I didn't have anything else to do. But it definitely made me more aware of how cycling infrastructure should be designed. And if it didn't work, you can see it doesn't work because nobody uses it. So it's
Yeah,
definitely something that I'd consider going into in the future.
that's very encouraging to hear from you, Rebecca. Any final concluding line?
Just give cycling a go, find out how much fun it is, and it might be the beginning of a lifelong journey with a bike.
Very true, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Faye.
Thank you, Rebecca, for insightful discussion and sharing your stories and experiences with all of us. We wish you all the luck with your YouTube channel and all upcoming adventures. Also, do find our YouTube channel, Rebecca Laurel. We'll see you in the next episodes. Stay tuned.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Conversations with Reinforced Engineers podcast. Hope you found value in the discussion and do tune in for next episodes. And in case if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast for updates on future episodes. Thank you once again and have a great day.